beautiful human, what it do? My name is Patrick and this is Porche Tarot. I wanted to make a quick video about journaling. Now, I've been journaling religiously since 2014, around the time I got my first tarot deck. And I still have all those journals to this day. And I will tell you, it is one of the most powerful things you can do for personal transformation. Really just being aware of what you do and who you are is super important. I have a couple different means of journaling. I've recently moved to a digital format of journaling, but I have a bunch of these old moleskin journals that I also use, and I still do like going to the written form occasionally. And I will show you, there's an app called Day One. I don't know if this will be an overlay to this video. There'll definitely be a link in the description to Day One. I don't think I'm actually gonna show you my journal, but it's on my computer right now. And I have different journals for different things with different colors. But I just wanted to talk a little bit about my journaling process so that you could get an idea of something that you may be able to do in terms of tracking your tarot progress, tracking your progress with self-development, no matter what it is that you're doing. But particularly if you're reading the tarot, one of the most powerful things you can do is write down the cards that you see. If you're using an electronic journaling app, then the readings that you get, go ahead and take a picture of it. If you're watching a YouTube video, go ahead and note what card it was. Write down like any card you're confused about. Like Patrick was talking about like the Eight of Swords, and when he was talking about that, that really resonated with me. Like write it down. If you don't write anything down other than like what you got from it, that's also a beautiful tool. But it's one of, if you're learning the tarot, and I don't know how many of you are doing that, if you would like to leave a comment on this video, I'm hoping to come up with some tarot classes in the future. But before I do any of that, I'm going to put together a series of 78 videos that have to do particularly with what each card means in its upright and its reverse, just so you're aware. But if you are learning the tarot, it's one of the quickest and best ways for you to be able to go back and say, like, when I pulled the Eight of Pentacles, when I pulled the Eight of Swords, I had no idea what it meant. No idea. You can go back to a journal entry and see exactly what it meant and what that meant to you. Eight of Swords shows up in a lot of different ways in my life. I once pulled it when I was in this class with a bunch of people, and there were so many people talking, and I felt like I didn't want to talk. Like I felt like I was gonna burst. I had so many thoughts, but I felt like I didn't want to talk. And eventually I was like, I'm just gonna get up and go. I think I went to the bathroom or something. It's like very simple, but it was just like, oh, I'm not stuck here. I can just leave. Like there's nothing keeping me here. So when you go back, you'll get more of an association with the card, and as you start to string your stories together and talk about your readings, you'll be able to pull from personal experience. So how do I journal? The first thing I do every morning, and again, this is just me personally, I have an app called SOLARIA. So I open that app up. Today, the moon is at 99%. And it is in Cancer. So I would write full moon in Cancer for the day. And Luna Solario does a good job of like just telling you what the moon is in, where it's at. One of the best things about keeping track of where the moon is that you start to detach from the day to day. I remember a time, and it depends on what cycle you're living on, but I was living on 14-day cycles because my payday was every 14 days. Because I was on a paycheck to paycheck cycle. I lived in that cycle. And one of the best things that I could do, and it was more like a 10-day cycle, probably less than that. No, it was around a 10-day cycle because I would get paid. I would have 3 or 4 days of like being excited and not really thinking about anything. And then the remaining 10 days, I wouldn't have any money, or I'd have very little money, and I'd be bargaining with the universe about how to get through the next 10 days. So it was very slow. Every day drug on. It was like day to day to day. It was painful. And I was in that cycle, and this is when I started journaling, as I said, in 2014. And I started paying attention to the moon. And the moon immediately pulls you up out of that and puts you on a 28-day cycle, because it takes the moon 28 days to do its thing. And then you start living in this new moon, full moon cycle, which again is 14 days, right? So I'm not saying anything revolutionary, but you start to pay attention to longer cycles, and then you can start paying attention to full moon cycles, and then you can get beyond that. But I do track the moon because it gets me up out of myself. The other thing I'll track in the morning, the first thing I wake up, is I will record my dreams. So that's why I like having a digital journal. Most of you, maybe not most of you, maybe I'm being judgmental. I'm talking about myself, or myself in the past. But I used to wake up and I used to open my phone, check my emails, I would check Slack, I would check my Instagram, I would check my Facebook, I would go through social media, and I would start to pollute my consciousness with other people's shit. And I didn't want to do that anymore. So the first thing I do when I wake up is I start to record my dreams. I record everything. I'm like, oh, this happened, and this happened, and this happened. You would be so surprised how much your dreams mirror what's going on in your life. They're literal gifts from God to say, you need to think this, you need to think about that, you need to reconsider this, especially in retrospect. I can't, if you start journaling tomorrow, I wouldn't reread an entry until the first 30 days, and then go back, do a retrospective. You will be so surprised how much your dreams told you. The next thing I do when I journal is, if anything's bothering me, my emotions are out of whack, I like to write down how I feel. Today I'm feeling flustered. Today I'm feeling lovesick. Today I'm feeling heartbroken. Today I'm feeling ecstatic. Today I'm feeling excited. Today I'm feeling meh. I like to write all of that down. And then I go through a process. I will do tarot reading pretty regularly, or when I feel like I need one. And sometimes I'll write things down about what my tarot cards are saying to me, and sometimes I don't. All the time I take a picture of my reading, and if you don't do this in an app, I do this in Day One, the Day One app, but if you don't do this in an app, you can do this in your Notes app. So this is not a huge investment. But I will take a picture, just so that it's cataloged. Whenever something happens that pisses me off, or that I have to write a text, or I feel like I'm going to blow up and I have to write an email to somebody or something like that, I'll write it in my journal first. Most of the time, I don't send that text or that correspondence for several days, if I send it at all. Most of the time, I don't send it. But if you do have to send it, that's one of the things. It's like you can put it in your journal first. It kind of moves the energy. And this doesn't actually have to do with other people. Sometimes you just need to write down shit because you're mad. And I do that often too. So a lot of times you'll just like write down a bunch of shit, and it'll help move the energy out of your head. It moves the swords in the deck, right? The 8 of Swords, the 6 of Swords, the 3 of Swords, 5 of Swords, that conflict energy, right? The Knight of Swords, that action energy. I have to do something. I have to get my point across. It'll move it through the pen, through the thumbs, into your journal, so you aren't holding on to it anymore. And finally, at the end of the day, when I'm doing my meditation or prayer, like whatever it is, one of the things I like to do is clean up my side of the street, so to speak. So this is something that I learned in recovery, but I will write down my assets and liabilities for the day. So I'll write down all the things that day that I can remember that I did good, that I can praise myself for, that I can be excited about. And then I'll write down all the things that were my fault, that I could do better. If I'm mad at somebody, I'll write down what I could have done or my part in the situation. And that just allows me to not carry anything with me. It shows me who I need to apologize to, yes. But oftentimes, or sometimes, I'm not ready to apologize, or there's no apology that needs to be given. So it just helps clean my side of the street. It helps keep me in a place of center. And that's really it. I wake up the next day and I do it again. Some days I don't journal. I think that's fine too. I don't think you have to do this all the time. I've taken complete breaks, month-long breaks, 2 months long from not journaling, or well, there would be one entry. It just depends on the work you're doing, depends on where you're at. And like I said, you can have themed journals. That's the one thing I love about electronic journals, is that you can have, you know, I have a journal for work. That one looks completely different than my personal journal. I've tried to put them together before, and that fucked me up. Talk about like work-life balance, which isn't really a thing, but you are segmented and you do different things. So if you're working on something very specific, put it in a different journal. Other great thing about the electronic journals is you can lock them. So if you're worried about somebody reading your stuff, then you can lock them up. Passwords and so on and so forth. Your journal is very personal, so don't let anybody be in your stuff. I am single, I live alone, that is not a problem for me, so that is not something that I necessarily worry about, but it is something that I have worried about in the past, and I oftentimes forget that when I recommend journaling to other people. Lock that shit up. You will write about other people. But the best thing about journaling is you start to realize that your thoughts that you have right now are going to change. It doesn't matter who you are, how long you've been on the spiritual path, what you're working with. You will change. You're a human. Next month, you will be a different human than you are today. That's just life. Okay? That's what I have for you today, beautiful people. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. Lots of good content coming. I think I mentioned this, but I will be doing 78 videos on the different cards of the tarot. So you'll get a video on each card. There'll also be a blog post on each card. There are some, we have the zodiac readings that go out every week. So if you're curious about your zodiac, or if you don't read tarot and you want to start journaling these readings, you can watch my videos and journal that stuff out. Completely up to you. Thank you for joining me tonight. It is night for me. Thank you for joining me tonight. And I'll see you in the next one.